Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update. The afternoon update with Lynlee Foo.
Money FM 89.3. Now, when we think about who issues sustainability bonds, we often picture governments, banks, or major corporates. But what happens when a university steps into that space? That's exactly what the Singapore Management University has done, issuing its very first $150 million sustainability bond. It's a bold move, and it raises some important questions. Why would a university enter the sustainable finance market? What do investors make of it? And could this be the start of a broader shift where non-traditional issuers take a more active role in ESG finance? Welcome to Industry Insight. I'm Lynlee Foo. Joining me today is Yvonne Chan, Chief Financial Officer of Singapore Management University, to unpack the strategy behind this milestone and what it might signal for the future of capital markets in Asia. Welcome, Yvonne.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Now, this $150 million sustainability bond marks a first for Singapore's higher education sector and for SMU. It's clearly more than just a fundraising exercise. I think it reflects a shift in how universities are thinking about their role in long-term sustainability and how they engage with capital markets. But what was the thinking behind this move for SMU to enter this bond market at this point in time?
Okay, for SMU, I think for a university, we really exist to educate and empower and uplift the community. So therefore, we teach this subject in our education, and it's all about walking the talk. You know, we teach our students that and teach them how to raise bonds when they go into the markets. So what about for ourselves? Because we also have needs, financial needs in this area.
Okay. I would think that there's a pretty strong investor interest in high-quality ESG assets.
Oh, yes, sure. So, this year is our 25th anniversary. So, raising bonds is not new for us. We've been raising 4 or 5 bonds previously, but they're normally plain vanilla bond. And because we're AAA rated, so there's a lot of interest from our investors. So, to this year, the difference is that we're raising it as a sustainability bond, which is different from the ones that we used to raise in the past.
Right. So it was as much about deepening your sustainability journey as it was a smart financing decision. And I suppose the timing lined up.
Yes, it was.
Now let's talk about the structure, Yvonne. Why did SMU opt for a sustainability bond rather than a green bond?
Okay, for green bonds, I think the focus is mainly on climate and environmental goals. Whereas for sustainability bond, it's a little bit more wider encompassing, where we can have a combination of funding green and social projects. So funding green social projects is a little bit different because you have to account for it slightly differently. But I think we are quite ready as a management school to actually put ourselves to the test and see how we can sieve up these projects that we can fund.
Okay. And can you give us an example?
So, for example, for our 25th anniversary, we recently relaunched this SMU Access Plus, which is actually kind of a financial package to fund and cover tuition fees for Singaporeans undergraduate from lower income family. So a lot of these comes from monies that comes from our school fees and from the reserves that we have built up over the years. So now, instead of using those monies, we are attempting to actually raise this sustainability bond and use this to fund such initiatives instead. So this will definitely go towards the social projects part of the funding that we are allocating the funds usage for.
Wow, Yvonne, that's a really powerful example. I think it shows that sustainability isn't just about reducing carbon footprints, but also about making education more accessible. Now, sustainability bonds do come with high expectations. How challenging was it to align with frameworks like the ICMA Sustainability Bond Guidelines?
I think the hardest part about aligning to the guidelines are setting KPIs. It's much easier setting KPIs when you're talking about carbon emission reduction, carbon footprint emission reduction, because those can be measured and there are standards to measure these. However, on social projects, it's a little bit harder to measure because I think there are not many bonds or not many allocation of bonds go towards such projects. So I think we struggle with how do we measure. That's why when we were doing this, we have to pick very specific projects that can be measured in a way like number of students, the amounts that we really help, versus like certain social projects are into like, how much do you recycle food or reduce food wastage. It's a little bit harder for us to measure things like that. That's why I think the hard part was picking the projects that we can measure and can be quantified by maybe a third party auditor. So that's the difficulty.
Wow, sounds like a lot of work behind the scenes, but also a valuable internal exercise, I suppose, in terms of benchmarking and discipline. So, how did the investor community respond to SMU entering the bond market?
It's not new for us because I think for universities, we lay out very clearly our payment plans, and therefore, and because we are AAA rated, I think investors are quite hungry for these types of bonds. So it's not new. But sustainability is the first time we're trying it. So we were actually a bit skeptical about the reception by the investor community. But on the day that we actually launched it, it was oversubscribed. In fact, the bank that we work with actually said that people are asking for more. So I think that gives us a lot of confidence to say that the market may be more ready for institutions like us to actually raise sustainability bond. And it also shows the maturity that a lot of investors actually moving into this space.
Can you tell me roughly how your bond is priced?
So actually we managed to get a good spread. Okay, part of it is because we've been timing the market for a while. SMU has been watching the interest rate, and I think SORA has fallen quite a bit. So that was one big enabler. The second one is also the spread. So I think when there's a lot of liquidity in the market, we may have a larger spread, but the timing now is quite sweet for us. So we managed to get a very low spread, and therefore the rates are very good. In fact, it's almost risk-free.
Okay. Yvonne, can you give us a sense of what specific initiatives this sustainability bond is helping to fund?
So as a start, I think we are refurbishing our current building. Being 25 years old, a lot of our buildings are aging, and therefore we have to meet tougher, stringent requirement set up by several different authorities. So we're going to use majority of that to fund refurbishments of our building, and a portion of it will then be used to fund the social projects I mentioned. So the social projects will be like the sustainability projects that our students work towards in part of their graduation criteria. And then, of course, looking at also some of the initiative, like what I mentioned, to actually help fund financial aid for lower income family students.
Okay, so it's a healthy mix of environmental innovation and social uplift.
Right.
Okay, and how will SMU ensure accountability in terms of how the funds are used and what impact they're making?
So I think it's coupled in a larger picture. So we have also embarked on our sustainability reporting since 2 to 3 years ago when SMU launched our sustainability blueprint. So it's also quite timely with the issuance of this bond that we will up our standard in reporting, and we're moving and more towards ISSB standard, although we don't have to do it. So I think that's the next part that we're working towards. And while investors invest in us, I think they also want to see a regular reporting being done, and our reports are actually on our website, where we tell them how we use the fund and basically show the faces of the beneficiary, the buildings that we said we're going to fund, so that they know that this is the use for which their funds are being allocated in our financial allocations.
Transparency is important, and I think that level of reporting really raises the bar, especially for institutions that might not be legally bound to do so yet. Yvonne, what have you personally taken away from this experience, and would you consider doing it again?
It has been quite a journey. I think not just myself, my team. This is the first for us. So I think we worked very closely with the bank. We didn't expect that there are so many requirements that we have to fulfill. That's why part of it is before we even raise the sustainability bond, we need to come up with this sustainability finance framework. And subsequently, we need to get Moody's to actually kind of give their third-party opinion on it to say that, it meets a certain mark and we got a very good rating for it. before we actually launched it to the market. So there were quite a lot of background work that has to be done. And by no ways were the bank or Moody's easy on us being a non-commercial entity. They hold us to the same benchmark. So we need to show that we can meet all the stringent criteria, no different than a public listed company or any commercial institution that is going into the bond market in this way.
I can imagine you probably had to bring different teams together, like finance, facilities, sustainability, student life, everyone.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Really sounds like this was a transformative journey for SMU, institutionally, not just financially. Last question. Do you think we'll see more universities or public sector bodies entering the sustainable finance space?
I would imagine so. There's so much talk about sustainability, and public funds are going to be always available. I mean, as each ones get renewed. And I think so much talk about sustainability, and if we do not embark on this in a different way, and governments and other institutions like us don't lead the way, I think it'll be harder for like SMEs to actually do it because there is cost involved, and there's a lot of people that has to also align to make sure that we want to do this. So I think larger entities like us, and especially when we teach this subject, all the more we are well poised to have the knowledge and to have people who are quite passionate in this area to do it. I would call for more to do so.
All right. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for such a thoughtful and well-rounded conversation and insights into this sustainability bond by SMU. Yvonne Chan, Chief Financial Officer of SMU, on the university's landmark sustainability bond and what it could signal for the future of sustainable finance in Singapore. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Industry Insight on Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.